Very happy to be joined by Congresswoman Gwen Graham. As they say, needs no introduction. We're very happy to have you with us today. So I'm going to jump right in.
Sure.
I'm going to jump right in if you don't mind. It is April 19th, so we're 2 weeks short of your one-year anniversary from jumping into the race.
Right, it's been a great year.
You spent the year driving around the state, talking to people constantly, flying to other places, talking to people, raising money. So the simple question to begin with is, why would you put yourself through this? Why do you want to do this job?
I get that question a lot, John. It's because I passionately care about the people of Florida and the state of Florida. And as governor, I'm going to be a governor that wakes up every day focused on how to make the lives of Floridians better. And I think it's something that this election in particular is critical for the future of the state of Florida. I'm someone that believes in planning for the future, and after I'm governor for 8 years, the people of Florida, the state of Florida is going to be on a really good path for the future. I want your kids to have the best of lives in Florida, growing up in an economy that's robust, an environment that's protected, with infrastructure that you don't have to sit on the roads like we just did to get here, and where there is a true quality of life, not just existence, but quality.
If elected, it is incredibly likely that you would be governor with 2 Republican chambers in the legislative branch. I know you have a long experience in Congress, but how would you, as governor, navigate that type of waterfront politically?
Sure. I can't wait. What I love to do the most, and I love talking to people who disagree with me. Sometimes people think that's strange, but I think you learn by actually seeking other points of view. And so working, if in fact, and we don't know, it could be that we have many more Democrats in the Florida House and Florida Senate in 2018. But regardless, I look forward to working together with the legislature. In Congress, they do a ranking of independents, and I was ranked in all 435 members, I was ranked number 8. And for the life of me, I don't know how 7 beat me, because my commitment is to making decisions based on fact. And if you base decisions on fact, you do end up pretty independent and bipartisan. And that's what I'm committed to doing.
When you take that record from Congress and you bring it to the state, do you think that moderate streak that you demonstrated, that might be helpful in a general election? How do you navigate that through the primary process?
And you're right. I mean, I think both primaries, if you're playing along at home, both primaries create an environment where you at times you feel pressured by the extremes, who are very passionate. Progressive members of the Democratic Party are extremely passionate. But my commitment is to stay grounded in my value system, in my commitment to making decisions that are going to be in the best interest of Floridians. And I really believe strongly that if you do that, people are okay with disagreeing with you. What they're not okay about is if they don't feel that they can trust you, if they don't feel that you're being honest with them. And any Floridian that I come across is just a wonderful opportunity for them to see in my heart what I'm committed to doing, and it's going to be to wake up every day focused on how do I work for Floridians and give them the best opportunity to have a wonderful full life here in Florida.
Talk to us about one thing that sets you apart from the other candidates for governor.
Well, I've won in a tough year in a Republican district, so I'm battle tested. I've proven that I can do this, and I am committed to Dominic. I'm committed to continuing to be true with what I believe in, which is you can work really hard, do a lot of good, and also be very frugal with the taxpayer dollar. In fact, I returned 15% of my operating budget back to the U.S. Treasury when I was in Congress because I didn't need to spend it to do the job that was needed. And I think that that's something that every single dime that you're provided as an elected official needs to be spent wisely and frugally. And you know where I get that from. my father is infamous for being extremely frugal, and I say frugal instead of the other word, which has more negative connotations.
Let's talk a little bit about an issue that's going to come up for the remaining months of the campaign. In Florida, a convicted felon cannot vote, serve on a jury, or hold public office until civil rights have been restored. As a member of the cabinet, you would sit on the clemency board for the state, and recent federal rulings have declared our current voting rights restoration process unconstitutional and ordered it to be redesigned. What is your stance on clemency? Are there any specific civil rights you think should be restored, and how should that be done?
Well, clemency is part of a process and should be an active part of the process. And certainly I feel very strongly that the amendment that's going to be on the ballot, the constitutional amendment number 4, should be passed, that once somebody has filled their debt to society, that they should be allowed to be an active, full member of society again, and voting is certainly one of those critical areas, if not the most critical. I mean, what is more important in our community than exercising your right to vote and having a voice in who is serving an elected office? We're living through currently real-life civics education in election history in the 2016 election. You know, one area that I am concerned about, and I was the in-house counsel for the Leon County School District for 7 years, and you know, one of the things we had to consider is whether somebody who had previously committed a felon would be allowed to work at the school district, and there are certain offenses that prevent you from being able to do so. And I know that that is an issue, that we need to be opening up economic opportunities and job opportunities for those who have filled their debt to society, because the best way to decrease recidivism is to give someone an opportunity to have a job and be actively engaged in their community, and that will certainly help prevent some of the returning to prison cycle that we see.
If we can turn to taxes for a moment. One of the Democratic candidates for governor has proposed raising the corporation tax from 5.5% to 7.75% to raise additional money for education. What do you think of raising the corporate income tax rate?
I am committed to providing more funding for our education system. I think we do that by first addressing the credits and significant advantages that some of our special interests have been able to receive. I think that it's important that we don't put in place something that hurts our small businesses. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy. I want to grow our small business economy and opportunities and entrepreneurship. So I think that there are other ways to find resources than to increase the corporate income tax.
One of the things we've heard today, one of the things you hear a lot from people running for office at any level of government, is the new programs that they want to propose, the new things that they want to do. Usually those things cost money. So in a resource-constrained environment, which we almost always are in our now, doing more, or at least spending more, is not always an option. So let me flip that script for you. What should we be doing less of? Or to put another way, where do you see us being able to cut spending in the state?
Well, I think that I can't wait to get my hand on the budget. It's an $89 billion budget, and I am sure there's going to be plenty of areas that I will see are not in the best interest of Floridians. My commitment is going to be to education, to our environment, to infrastructure, and I think these are 3 key components that Floridians are not seeing the support that they need to be seen in a greater way. So again, I think we need to look at where are resources going that are not being spent, as I would argue, are in the better interest of Floridians. And I look forward to working with Florida TaxWatch. Y'all can help me identify some of those areas that our tax dollars are not being well spent. And I think we need to shine a very bright light on the entire process to make sure that not only Floridians understand where their tax dollars are being spent, but that legislators understand that I'm going to have a very high standard for spending the taxpayer dollars. And my standard is going to be, is this in the best interest of Floridians?
Moving on to economic development. Miami has made the shortlist for Amazon's second headquarters, and large companies like Amazon can bring thousands of jobs to the Sunshine State. The state is not funding the Economic Development Incentive Toolkit again this year, against the recommendations of TaxWatch research. If this lack of funding continues, how would you grow Florida's economy from within?
Well, we absolutely need to fund the toolkit, and we also need to make sure that we continue to provide incentives to come to Florida, but we need to have a broader, comprehensive approach. I think it's very limited if you're just looking at providing incentives. We need to have corporations want to come to Florida because we do provide the best trained, skilled workforce. I mean, my commitment to education is to bring technical training. I think we need to bring it down into the middle school years, where we can grab young people, you know, those middle school years where kids are sort of flailing around trying to figure out what, you have a middle school child. I remember those years. But provide that training. In North Florida, I was actively involved in getting the largest Coast Guard cutter contract ever granted in the United States to a shipbuilding yard in Panama City. And as a result, many jobs have been created around that ship. And it's robotics, it's technology, it's computer jobs. This is an opportunity to take that model and take it all over the state of Florida. So let's be providing that skilled workforce that the employers are looking for, not only for the jobs that are here today, but the jobs that we want to come here tomorrow. And the next Amazon, whatever it is, I want them to look at Florida and say, you don't have to encourage me to go to your state. I want to be in your state. Because everything that we're looking for as a corporation is provided. And we all know that in addition to a trained workforce, we want to make sure that we're providing quality educational opportunities for families to move to Florida with their companies, or here today and want to stay in Florida. All three of my kids have left the state of Florida to find their job. So this is personal. I want them all to come back. But also infrastructure, we need to be improving our roads and our ports and opportunities to move goods across the state of Florida more easily. When you face a parking lot that is our I-75 or I-95, that's a very limiting factor in whether companies want to relocate to Florida. So there's a lot on the line. And again, this will also provide an environment for homegrown businesses that we want to encourage people to get into starting that dream opportunity that they have, that entrepreneurial opportunity. Another component of that is making sure that kids can graduate from college without being loaded down by debt. I think we can use my ideas about technical training to provide an opportunity for private and businesses to get involved in helping young people have that opportunity to go through school, have the training, and then be participating in an apprentice program. So that once they get out of school, they don't just have the skill sets, but they've actually had the experience where they can go to work from day one and be active employees from the very beginning.
So you mentioned education a couple times in that answer, which I know is important.
Just a couple?
Just probably.
I should have mentioned about 12, 15.
Somewhere between 12. For decades now, the Florida school system has been heavily reliant on standardized testing. And that testing has been in near constant state of change as of late. What role do you believe testing plays in education? And as governor, what would you push for in terms of assessments?
I thought of, this is my dad in me, but I thought of a couple more things, John, that I want to add to my last answer, and then I'm going to answer the question you just asked me. A couple more areas is, healthcare. I'm a firm believer that we need to expand options in Florida for healthcare. Medicaid expansion, in my opinion, is a no-brainer because it will provide healthcare to literally 1 million Floridians that currently do not have it. The other option I'm talking about is a public option, which will allow businesses and individuals to buy into the same kind of health insurance that our state employees are able to get. I negotiated healthcare in Tallahassee for thousands of employees. And as a result, I was able to negotiate in the state employee pool, lower rate increase, better coverage. The other is we need to be providing a full non-discriminatory approach to welcoming people to Florida. So we need to increase and improve our non-discrimination policy to include sexual orientation and gender identity. Now, to your question about standardized testing. As the mother who has lived through 3 children who have been subjected to this high-stakes standardized testing culture, we all know that this is really, really having a negative impact on our public education system. We have got to get back to providing the information that teachers need to have to educate our children. And it's not what's being provided through this high-stakes standardized testing world that we have now developed over many, many years. So my commitment is to getting us back where teachers are teaching. They're not being expected to teach to the test, but they're teaching these kids so that every child has an opportunity for a quality education across the state of Florida. And how are you going to do this? I went to public schools in Florida. I was tested, and the information was able to provide the teachers with what they needed to help me grow every year. So there is a path forward, and we're going to find it, because my #1 commitment as governor is going to be to get our education system back on the right path, and ending this high-stakes testing culture is #1 on the list.
Let's move on to your perspectives for the future. What do you believe is the single biggest issue our state will face over the next 5 years, and what would you do to tackle it?
I can only give you one?
One at a time.
Okay. Well, I think I've already touched on it many times. I think restoring our promise to public education. 9 out of 10 kids go to public schools. I'm not against choice, but I think every child should have that opportunity to get that quality education and then get that great paying job and contribute to our economy. But I would be remiss if I did not say that I also think rising sea levels and the threat that our state faces as a result, and this is a real economic threat, and we need to be dealing with it, we need to be planning for it, and I think that ties closely to infrastructure, because if we don't improve our infrastructure, our state is economically going to be very much left behind.
So on a similar note, budgets tend to be narratives of philosophy
That's
for what
right.
an executive wants to do. What does your first budget look like to address these types of issues?
My first budget is going to make sure that we're restoring our promise to education. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is to start looking at constitutional amendments that the voters of Florida have overwhelmingly said that they want. And one of them is the lottery. And I believe that the lottery dollars, remember the promise of the lottery dollars? It was that we were going to add money to education. And ever since the lottery's been put in place, there has been a gradual decrease in the general revenue funding for public education. We're going to get back on the right track. And I was actually asked, I don't know if did anyone here see the debate yesterday? Wasn't it, were you riveted? Did you watch it over and over again? You just probably couldn't tear yourself away. But I was asked a question about what number? There is no magic number. I mean, our education budget in Florida is about a $22 billion budget. Is that enough? We'll see. But I'm going to be working with the school districts all across the state of Florida, talking with them about what they need before reaching whatever that number is. But the lottery dollars will be used as the people of Florida directly said they want them to be used, which is to add money to education, not give an excuse to take money away. Keep buying those lottery tickets.
Talk about Florida TaxWatch for a moment.
Sure.
Every year, Florida TaxWatch releases the Budget Turkey Watch report to promote transparency in public budgeting and to encourage meaningful legislative review of all appropriations. If you become governor, how would the Turkey Watch report factor into your decision-making processes on the budget?
One of my significant disappointments in our state government is how our sunshine laws have become, they're just a mockery. The getting around them is more the goal than living up to them. And I believe that everything that state government does should be done in the sunshine, including, and maybe most importantly, appropriations decisions. So I appreciate what Florida TaxWatch is doing, and when I'm governor, we'll be doing everything in the sunshine.
Let me touch one more question, and we're going to take questions from the audience.
And I'm going to be looking at those turkeys.
We're going to go to
very closely.
We will go to the audience after this. One more question, though. Campaigns are hard. campaigns are expensive, as we talked about at the beginning. In a political calendar that's now growing more crowded by a Senate race, people are saying it could cost $150 to $200 million between both parties. How much do you think your gubernatorial campaign is going to cost from here to the end, and how do you get there from where you are now?
It's hard work, John. I mean, fundraising and raising money is something I wake up every day with a smile on my face, dedicated to doing. I don't believe that it's the person who has the most money that's going to win. I believe it's the person that has a vision for the state of Florida that the people of Florida connect to. And every day I get up, in addition to raising money, I'm traveling around the state, meeting with Floridians, and it is such an incredible opportunity. And no matter where we are in Florida, whether I've been in the Keys recently, Pensacola, Jacksonville, I've actually moved my headquarters to Orlando. Thank you for having a meeting here, by the way. It made my life a lot easier. So I'm going to be everywhere, and everywhere I go, and this maybe sounds a little corny, but I'm going to say it anyway. Everywhere I go, I feel like I'm home. And I am, and there's a connection. And I'm going to answer your question about the money. It's mind-boggling how much money it takes to run in a state besides of Florida, and we certainly have gotten out of control. When my father ran for governor in 1978, he spent $6 million. 3 million, 6 million, maybe 6 million was the Senate race in 1986. But can you imagine, even if it was 6 million, I mean, can you imagine? I've already raised over 7 million. So I will raise what we need to win this race. I have a significant advantage of name recognition. The polling that we're doing, which is extensive, Philip Levine, and I understand Philip's going to be here right after me, I think. You know, he has already put a lot of his own money into this race. And so I'm very fortunate to have the support of Floridians far and wide who know that as the governor, I'm going to be committed to doing what's right for the state of Florida. And we'll keep working to raise the money. I think the general election, ironically, will be, you know, probably a $50 million race to November 6th, from August 29th to November 6th. But there's going to be so much national interest in this race because this is the Florida gubernatorial race in 2018 is the national race. And so I think that the money for the general will be potentially less of a challenge than the primary. And if anybody here wants to donate to my campaign, do not hold yourself back. Do not hold yourself back. Because it is really, really important that that we elect someone this time who's committed to doing what I am. As governor, I'm going to be working with Floridians across the state, business community across the state. I don't care whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, independent, could care less about politics. You're going to know with me, you're going to have someone that's going to be working hard to make the best and the right decisions for the state of Florida. It's the only reason I'm running, is to get the state back on the right path for every Floridian.
Thank you. We have some time for some questions from the audience. We do have a microphone going around, so if you will raise your hand. Dominic, you want to lead us off? Try to get you the microphone.
And before Dominic starts talking, I mean, one of the things that really concerns me is, did anyone here, y'all know about the United Way study that showed that almost 50% of Floridians are one paycheck away from financial ruin? Do you know that? I don't think that's a statistic that many people, I mean, but for me that really is heart-wrenching. Because we all, as Floridians, and we all should, and I know we all do, want more for all of us. And when we have an economy where everybody is able to get a paycheck that allows them not just to live here and go to the next job, but actually go out to eat and do things that help the business communities, we all benefit from that. So that's one of my commitments, is to get Florida where we don't have that horrific statistic, where everybody has an opportunity to have a good paying job. Not just a job, but a good paying job. Yes, Dominic?
First, thank you for your past service, and also especially thank you for putting yourself and your family at this great public service that we need good people to run for office. We agree with you on the transportation and the infrastructure concern. Back some years ago, 1990, TaxWatch played a very critical role in helping to get the gas tax passed. It was tied to increased DOT productivity. It was part of which allowed the legislators to vote for it and the governor not to veto it. It's also tied to inflation, so to CPI, so it was adjusted. Over 27 years, we had some of the worst roads then, and it got a lot better. Yet, we have the benefit of growth. And growth has just created this incredible cost, if you will, and that is gridlock. As you said, I-95, particularly Miami, we deal with this for our Center for Competitive Florida. So specifically, we've got to do a lot more. What would you do specifically in terms of gas taxes or some other method to helping to ensure that if we can't solve some of these transportation problems, we're going to see the end result. There'll be pockets where people have to move away. You just can't move in Miami.
Right.
Also, would tell you that. So, could you just specifically, what kind of things do you think would be necessary to really propel Florida forward in the whole infrastructure initiative?
Well, I think John alluded to it. A budget is an indication of what your priorities are. And my budget priority, one of my priorities is going to be to improving infrastructure. It is our economic future is tied to it. And one other way that we need to decrease some of the gridlock is to provide more mass transit opportunities. We should have taken that high-speed rail money. No decision I ever made is going to be made because of an ideological reason. It was wrong to turn that money away. And I believe we need to look forward into the future and have high-speed rail from Tampa to Orlando, Orlando to Miami, and then let's branch out from that. Let's use hubs along the way to branch out and provide more opportunities for people to get out of their cars the more people we get off of the roads, the less gridlock we have for those that are on the roads. So I'm going to be looking at many different options, and I know it's going to take additional resources, and I think that our budget is one where the priorities are going to be aligned with what the needs of Florida are, as it should be. Yes?
Thank you, Congresswoman Graham. My name is Renata Espinez. I'm a principal out in Palm Beach County School District.
Thank you.
I have three questions for you. One, I'm happy to hear about the end of testing of high state. However, because of our education in the state of Florida, I've noticed that the science of taking FCAT has not changed. We are so behind, especially in science, and we're not going to what the other states have, as in Massachusetts, talking about the next generation science standards. I'd like to know what's your point of view or your intake for education, especially in science. I know that we have the STEAM program, and there's money coming out from the federal regarding aftercare and the STEM programs that they're doing more money for. But in science, Florida is really behind. What can we change on that?
Well, Florida needs to get back to focusing on learning and education as opposed to high stakes testing. And I think the sciences, STEM education, arts, music. I'm a band mom. My kids were band geeks, so I was right there with them in the stands. But all of these add to a student's ability to learn and to grow. And so my commitment is to get the resources where teachers know they are. And I would love to talk with you more about what do we need, what curriculum do you see that we need in our schools to grow our science education? And it's not just so you can take, I'm sorry if I'm buzzing, I apologize, but it's not just so that you can take the FCAT well, but so that you can develop a real passion for science and STEM education. My middle son is a computer engineer, and he actually is out in California now working for the world's largest online gaming course. Has anyone here ever heard of Blizzard Entertainment?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So my boys played World of Warcraft growing up, and I would criticize them and say, get outside and smell the fresh air. My middle son is having the last laugh. So anyway, but these are important for our future. I'm not just talking about today, but we need to be educating our young people for the jobs 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And science education is critical to that. But again, my commitment is I know that we have got so many smart, good, excited people across the state of Florida, and I want everybody to come and help me in the specific area that you're an expert in, understand what needs to be done for the future.
My other question is about charter schools and choice schools. That charter schools are not management charter schools that are not-for-profit. For example, Jefferson County, how that whole county is being taken up by academia.
Yes.
My question is to you, because parents want choices and they have the right to choose choices, what is your take or your perspective about charter schools management, charter schools that are not management, non-for-profit, and your public schools?
The whole concept of charter schools initially was community-based support in the community to grow the school, and it was not a for-profit entity. My commitment is to have a level playing field again, where charter schools and public schools are all held to the same standards. I'm not against choice. I'm not against choice, but I am against choice that's a disadvantage to other schools and other students. So I think we've gotten off the tracks in terms of what charter schools were supposed to be. Let's get back focusing on what charter schools are supposed to do, which is not to make a lot of money on the backs of our kids. It's to educate our kids and to hopefully provide a working environment for teachers where teachers are supported. Absolutely, teachers need to be paid more across the state of Florida. And one of my concerns with charter schools as well, and this is that charter schools teachers are not required to be certified. And that is concerning to me, because we all want our students, and I'm not saying that there's not perfectly good teachers who are not certified, but we need to make sure that the skill sets that teachers have, because that's the conduit to our kids, and we need to make sure that we all have the same standards.
Unless you're in a Title I that's a charter school, I know that you have to be certified. My last question for you, Congresswoman Graham, is about the Dreamers, especially students who are illegal that are attending public school. What is your take and input about that when they see their parents being deported, and then all you have, you're dealing with students, I'm dealing with students who are illegal, their parents are illegal, and I have to be dealing with the crying, the stress on them, and then having to deal. So I'd like to know your opinion, your take, and how it can be helped.
Can we go back for a second? You said that in a for-profit charter school?
In a Title I charter school, you have to have highly qualified, certified teacher.
Yeah, okay, that's because of federal funding. I understand. Okay, as for Dreamers, we have about 50,000 Dreamers in the state of Florida. And these are young people that are contributing great things to our state and our community. And I do not believe that we should be asking our law enforcement to go out and to put these people's lives, to have them live in fear. I hope that the Congress of the United States will finally do what they should have done a long time ago, which is comprehensive immigration reform. It is time, for many reasons, humanitarian reasons, economic reasons, but it is time that we hold Congress accountable for not doing what they need to do in dealing with our immigration crisis in this state and the country. And I'm sorry that your parents and families are going through that.
We've got time for one more.
Do not make me pick. And I'm happy to answer as many as you want, John, so, but I know you got other people coming in.
Hi, thank you.
You hear me?
Hi.
You've previously met, first of all, John Knox from Film Florida. You have completed Film Florida.
Phil, Florida, did you hear me yesterday?
I did, so thank you for that. So a follow-up question to that.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, you support our industry. Some of the same opponents remain in the legislature. If you are elected, how do you see moving that agenda forward, knowing that some of the same opposition still exists?
Well, what I'm committed to doing when I'm, as governor, these are not just words for me. What's your first name again?
John.
John, oh, good. Let's keep it easy there. You know, I think people deserve to understand that when you're campaigning for office, everyone should know that what you're talking about doing, you're going to get done. Do I think this is going to be easy? I'm not naive. But we will work together. We will work together to put in place the policies that are going to be beneficial to Floridians. And one of those is the film and digital and TV industry. I know Florida has so many opportunities. I mean, look where we're sitting right now. Universal. I mean, we are in an entertainment capital. And we have an opportunity to build our film industry. And quite honestly, Georgia has taken advantage of Florida's short-sightedness. And it's, you know this, it's ideological, John. It has nothing to do, because if you were going to do what you should do, the benefit of film production in the state of Florida is incredibly, I mean, for so many reasons. It's not just the filming, it's the catering, it's the restaurants, it's the hotels, it's the tourism that develops as a result. And I'm just mad about Bloodline. Because I love that show. And so, yes. And so I'm going to move the agency or the entity that's managing film production in Florida into my governor's office. That's how much it matters to me. And we're going to bring it back. And we're going to have Florida be flourishing again in terms of being a welcoming state for any kind of entertainment production here in the state.
Would you please all join me in thanking Councilman
One more question. We heard from this wonderful principal, TaxWatch, really at the advice of one of our founders, Phil Lewis, a good friend of your dad, passed away some years ago. Rick told us that we need to find a way to nurture, recognize, reward great principals. We're doing that now with this program. She's being recognized in others. And so we find the 3 elementary, 3 middle, 3 high school principals that are really beating the odds, particularly at the low-performing schools or Title I, English spoken, second language, and so forth. We're able to encourage them. We want them to be more mentors like this wonderful lady here. What we have not yet done, the next phase is really, as governor, make sure that when you and the State Board of Education and the legislature begin to make policy about our schools, that you take into consideration those who are really hammering it out and really knocking it out of the park. So often we listen to the CFO or the superintendent or the administrators, but these are the men and women that are really making a difference where it counts, the principals. So with our principal leadership program, like I said, an answer yes or no would be good, but would you take the advice and help make sure they're part of advising you, your office, and the legislature?
Can I get your name before I leave so I can put you as first on the list? Can I get in your information? No, I mean, Dominic, absolutely. I mean, this is what I'm committed to doing, is bringing those individuals across the state who understand these issues, because they're working in them, they're living in them, they're seeing the challenges, into my office to help me make the best decisions. And that's what it's going to take to move the state forward. Thank you all so much. Thank you.